Ramdean and Black with you here in Sin City, gearing up for a ton of mixed martial arts action. The UFC back-to-back shows. Of course, we talked about Paige Van Zandt and Rose Namajunas. Everybody looking forward to UFC 194, the undisputed 145-pound championship of the world on the line. But I know a fight that you're looking forward to, the Ultimate Fighter 22 finale. Chad Mendes taking on Frankie Edgar. And I'm actually very surprised because I've talked to a lot of fighters this week who they believe that Frankie Edgar has this fight hands down. Are they counting out Chad Mendes? We know he has power. He's got the grappling background. He trains with some of the best fighters in the sport. Why do people believe that Frankie Edgar has this in the bank, so to speak, considering the fact he's facing a guy as dangerous as Mendes?
I think really, throughout his career, we've seen ever since Sean Shirk, he just got better and better, and we saw that he was faster, more technical, more skilled, mentally incredibly strong, an incredible chin. It's just undeniable, all top to bottom skills and attributes. He's got all of it. And then in that last fight against Uriah Faber, he just owned those 22 minutes against one of the true greats ever. Uriah Faber, one of the true greats ever, and owned all of that. And I think people see Mendes as a similar fighter, and he is a similar fighter, the same body shape, same mix of wrestling and boxing, but every fight is individual. And when I talked to Frankie about it, that's what he said. It's like every fight is just a little different, and these guys are different, and he's preparing for Mendes, not overlooking him.
Now, when you're comparing Uriah Faber and Chad Mendes, of course, Uriah Faber very similar to Chad Mendes. But when you talk about the punching power of Chad Mendes, I don't think Faber possesses those same type of abilities.
Yeah, power is the big test here, and I think Frankie gets that. And the best way to handle somebody's power is don't let them hit you with their power. And that's what Frankie's going to look to do. And he does it with his head movement. You know, he can really get that head moving, slips punches in counters. And when you slip a punch on somebody, you make them miss. But when you slip it and then you counter them, their brain starts to register that when they throw a punch, they get hurt. Now, Mendes is a great veteran and a super skilled guy, so it's very hard to discourage him with that. But over time, over 15 minutes, over 20 minutes, over 25 minutes, 45 minutes if you need it, if you're in the gym, you can train a guy to start to hesitate. And I think to some degree that's what he did with Uriah. Frankie's one of the true greats. Mendes can win this fight, but he should be the underdog.
Of course, this fight kind of flying under the radar, as is the co-main event of UFC 194, a fight we've been looking forward to for quite some time. Two guys in their prime battling it out for 185-pound supremacy. Luke Rockhold, I had a chance to talk to him. He is as confident as any fighter I have ever talked to. Chris Weidman says Luke Rockhold, his wrestling is a joke. This guy wasn't a good high school wrestler. This is not high school wrestling. This is not college wrestling. This is not Olympic wrestling. This is mixed martial arts, and we've seen so many fighters that don't have a wrestling background improve in that area. Is Chris Weidman underestimating Luke Rockhold?
I don't like what I'm seeing from Weidman, and I think if people watch our show, they know that I'm not only a fan of his, but I find him a very inspiring guy. You look to him and his work ethic and the way he has created his world, and it's something to be inspired by and to try to emulate. But he's also, David Mullins and myself have kind of categorized him as one of the greats mentally. And I'm not seeing that from him right now. The goal of diminishing the other fighter isn't necessary. McGregor, on the other hand, is saying Jose Aldo is the best pound for pound, and that's great because that will allow me to prove that I am. He's not diminishing his opponent. He's building him up and then saying, it's irrelevant. I'm better than him. I will beat him. I don't like seeing Weidman attempting to diminish his opponent because when he gets in there and you experience, oh my God, he's better than I was telling myself he was, that's not a great feeling for him. Chris is still a black belt in mental strength, but I've just seen the odd little crack that can be repaired. You know, the weigh-ins, we saw Ronda collapse. She just literally threw a temper tantrum, collapse. That's bad news. Your mental game has fallen apart. Chris has not fallen apart, but it's just ever so slightly not been perfect the last few days. But watch for him at the weigh-ins and see how he's expressing himself and see if that true confidence is back.
Weidman says that he knows that Luke Rockhold's going to utilize some of his best weapons, that being the kicks. He goes, when he does, they'll be caught and he'll be put to the ground. Again, is Weidman really believe this, considering the fact that we all know that Luke Rockhold trains with the light heavyweight champion of the world, Daniel Cormier, a former Olympic wrestler who wants Luke to be better. So he's constantly putting him on the ground, and I have a feeling that Chris Weidman will not be able to hold Luke Rockhold down if he does manage to get the takedown.
I don't doubt Chris Weidman, though. I really don't. And I like that better as somebody, you know, if we were really digging into his perspective. saying, yeah, throw that kick. When you do, I will penalize you for it. I will hurt you in the counter, or I will put you on your back. That's the Chris Weidman. And that's why I say he's still right at the top of his game mentally, and that's the mental perspective you like seeing from him. Yeah, bring it on. When you do, I'll hurt you.
Another action-packed fight for the middleweight championship of the world. Chris Weidman, Luke Rockhold. But there is a ton of action going down here in Sin City, and we have got you covered. A ton of preview shows, as well as the post-fight press conference for UFC 194. This program is brought to you by Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege, available December 1st, 2015.